I have a harder time with mental health nowadays because I do feel like it becomes an easy button for some people. Here, let me give you an example. I know somebody who doesn't go to work sometimes because they are having a bad mental health day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Amazing Marketing Show. I'm Dimitri Smirnov here with Chris Gray. We're going to talk to you about some really in-depth marketing today. We're excited for that. Chris, what's going on with you?
Dimitri, what up, bro?
I am about to move, and actually, tomorrow the movers are going to be here. In the meantime, the house looks like a tornado came through it, which actually, there's been a lot of tornadoes in the news. I kind of don't mean that literally. Living in Dallas, quite frankly, I've been afraid of tornadoes. Uh, and Anyway, we're getting out. We're getting out tomorrow, so it's been busy.
Hey, man. Speaking of Dallas, this is all going to make sense here in a second, but there's a gentleman named Mark Todd who's in our Driven Mastermind. You know Mark, right? Well known for challenges. He's a big affiliate guy, big marketing guy. I've been in the game for a while. Dan Kennedy had an event here in Dallas, and Mark Todd hit me up, and I couldn't meet up with him or whatever, but me and Mark ended up talking this week. And if you guys don't know who he is, look him up again. He's an expert in challenges, really good at marketing. But Dimitri, I just had a unexpectedly pleasant conversation with him. Like, you know how you meet people and you're like, yeah, man, we'll catch up, we'll talk. And then you eventually talk and you just kind of, whatever. And then something may happen. Usually nothing happens. We start talking about business. Then I come to find out that he's Jamaican, like quite literally Jamaican. My parents are Jamaican. He loves reggae music, specifically a genre called dancehall, which I love. He loves hip hop. The whole conversation just took off that. I mean, he was deep in the scene. He had a business. He would work with artists, and we were just going and just talking about our parents, this, that, and the other. So, anyways, it's cool when you go to these events, you meet somebody, and you're like, "Hey, we'll talk, we'll catch up," and then unexpectedly, you have so much in common.
And there's no way of knowing that in advance. You never know who you're going to really connect with because you're just at an event. You just scratch the surface about probably something business related. And you kind of have to go shallow before you can go deep. You know, everyone talks about they hate small talk, but you can't get to the deep part unless you can get past the small talk. That's kind of the tryout, so to speak. And that's great to hear that you met with someone local. It turns out there's so many great local people here in DFW, and it's kind of
Yep.
sad to leave at this point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, today we're going to do a deep dive into something that relates to business marketing, but also relates to all sorts of categories of life. So I have a few things prepped here. Chris, you're going to be hearing these, seeing these for the first time, and you are well known for local marketing, among other things. So we're going to lean on your expertise on some of these things, and I'll chime in, of course, if I can provide something that's valuable. So first question is, you ready to rock and roll?
Bro, let's do this, man.
All right. Well, first, I'm going to bring back a segment that we did a couple times called In a Word. So I'm going to give you a few words. I'm going to tell you how many, but no more than five. Maybe we'll stop at three. And you'll give me your first impression, kind of a phrase of what does this mean to you? And I'll give you a little bit of context because these are broad words. But firstly, is what is your favorite C word?
uh, the first word, the first word that came to mind is probably very inappropriate. So I'm not even sure if I should say it. But then maybe the next one is Chris because it's my name.
Yes. Well, for C for your name, all these words start with the letter C, and I figured the first one that would pop in would be the inappropriate one. I think that happened to me too, and our audience probably was thinking the same thing. I thought that was just a little bit funny. So
I would say it,
Chris,
but like my daughter might listen to this, and so I was like, I
okay.
cuss. I see how, but I didn't want to like.
Although the Brits say it all the time in any context and lovingly, endearingly. So yeah, we all know what we're talking about.
Yep.
Okay, Chris with a C. I'm going to hit you with some C words here. Firstly, give you the context to another C word is we're talking about local marketing again. We're talking about local life. Okay, so we live in a community. You live in the DFW area, and then more specifically, there's towns, neighborhoods, and so forth. And we care about schools that our kids go to. We care about the influences that our neighbors have on our family. We care about all of these things in relation to our local environment. So that's the context. And I'm going to hit you with the first one is credibility.
Credibility means the one word trust.
Consistency.
Work.
Um, I think I've actually, that was not the one I meant to say. Cancel that because we've talked about consistency before. That was in my notes and I scratched it out. Sorry for saying it. The number two one is actually character.
Integrity.
Community.
Work. There's a lot behind that answer, but for me, that's work.
Culture.
The first thing that came to my mind was Jamaican for the conversation we just had a while ago, but that has nothing to do with local stuff, but that's what came to mind.
And creativity.
Thinking.
Okay, so let's analyze these kind of all together. The reason I asked these, and the C's were kind of just for fun to keep it all into one letter, but the reason is because how I'm seeing it, and this all is tying back into marketing, but in your local community, whether you're marketing a business or you're marketing yourself as a productive member of society, or you're marketing yourself as a parent of a child that you want to get into a hard to get in school, you're always doing marketing. So what you need to show your credibility, you need to show your character, you need to evaluate your community. You want to fall into the culture that you pick, probably, rather than one to be forced on you that you don't like. And oftentimes, probably more often than we think is necessary, you have to do it in a creative way. Because if you do it in a plain way, you won't stand out. So I just your thoughts, kind of just take it and run with it. Whatever you think about how these words set your mood and your mind in that context of community.
Phrase that question one more time. So I want to make sure that I am giving you my best stream of conscience here.
From a local business marketing expert perspective, which is what you have, and with the goal being a successful member of a community, let's say, in all aspects of what that may mean. That could be faith, money, friends, environment, anything. How can you, given these 5 words that we went over, in your opinion, how do they relate to making that impact that you want to be doing?
Well, that's a good question and a deep one. There's a lot to it, and I'll just kind of go stream of conscious here and may or may not answer the question fully. Let's just say from the standpoint of a local business or whatever, and those words you're talking about, are you just even, I know you're talking about being a member of the community, but if I'm looking from a business perspective, it's how does what I do best serve my community? And how do I know how I best serve my community? I am out there in the community and building the culture, being a part of that community character. When I say character, I was talking about integrity, this, that, and the other is that has a lot to do with the reputation that you build in the community. So here's an example. Let me backtrack. I know some We work with plumbers, for example. I'll give you a quick little story. We work with some plumbers, and some plumbers are just sitting there and they're like, "Hey, get us leads. What are you giving us? What are you giving us?" And part of their whole, we try to explain to them that if you look at your marketing budget as a pie, there's a certain section of that pie, a large section of that pie, that our team is responsible for. There's other smaller sections of that pie that you are responsible for. Part of that pie is community engagement, and this is something that I don't think a lot of local businesses get. There's a business. We have a business, for example. I'll go back to my story. You have one guy who's sitting there like, "Hey, give me leads, give me leads, give me leads." They don't want to do anything. It's harder. We have another guy who's like, "Hey, give me leads, and I'm going to this community event, that community event. I'm networking here. I'm sponsoring this. My community needs that. Let's email the people in our community to tell them what's happening in the community." So now you have an email from a plumbing business that's not just about plumbing; it's about local community events. This involvement is creative, is creating trust, um, is getting people an opportunity to see this owner's character, so that when I now help advertise this company, this owner's already done so much work in this area. They're heard of. They know this person. There's been trust there, and so now my job is to, when somebody says plumber near me, for you to come up. When you come up, yeah, branding will help other people recognize, but the branding that you're doing within your community will help other people recognize your business. And so this is all stream of conscious, but I took what you said from a business perspective, um, a business who is trying to establish dominance in their local market. I'm interested to hear what you have to say though about that your question.
How do I translate that into actual community growth and making friends and being an influence on a community, on culture? What do I have to do to be credible? How do I show my character truly, and what can I do creatively? So that's the problem I'm working out on a personal basis. But I think a lot of people that may be listening don't realize how many things that they're good at can actually translate to so many other things in life.
Mm-hmm. It'll when So then when you're looking at you're moving to it's Virginia, right? Um, and you're looking to insert yourself within that community. What my question to you, and I know we have some topics we need to discuss, but what do you want to be different about your experience when you moved to Virginia versus the experience you had here in the Dallas Fort Worth area?
The experience in Dallas, and I would say probably the experience I had prior to that in all the different cities I've lived in, including in California, in Maryland, and in anywhere that I visited, is kind of just taking things as they come. Right? You go to a place or a park or a restaurant or a meetup, that's kind of in the direction I'm already foreshadowing towards. But some you kind of just take things as they are without necessarily planning them in advance. Meaning, I just show up to the park, and if there's people playing basketball, I'll play with them. But I didn't prepare how I want to be portrayed or how I want to be known for. What type of people do I want to meet with or be friends with or do business with? And so with this upcoming move, I think it would be fun and effective in accomplishing the goals that I want to accomplish if there was some plan set set up in advance with tactics is not really the best word because somehow that comes off to me less credible than just being genuine using tactics. But that's also part of it. That's why I say credibility is how can I be genuine? How can I show my true self, but with a specific plan of action?
Man, I don't think there's anything disingenuous about that. I think that let's take this whole you and I look at me and you. This podcast, our friendship, somebody I love. dearly came from me tactically going to certain masterminds or certain meetups, not to be like, hey, I want to meet somebody and make them a client or get money out of them, as much as let me go find somebody I connect with. And at the very least, I've made a friend. If I made a friend, even one friend, I have won. Um, and that's been what's happened for a year. And as a result, I've made four people that I can truly call friends, whether we fucking do business or not. Truly call friends because I tactically went to these situations looking for that, made the connections, and then a podcast happened to come of it. And whatever happens with this podcast, I don't give a shit. Dimitri's my boy. I've already won. So I see nothing um, selfish or anything about that. I think that it's smart.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, Chris, and I totally feel the same way. And it was a fortunate meetup that we were able to meet at that mastermind. And it was, if I remember correctly, it was already when the mastermind was over, and kind of people were chit chatting there at the end, and people were leaving when we first got to speak. And so I'm grateful for that.
Yes,
Totally,
sir.
it was a huge win. Now with going into these communities, and so let me just build in some more context, I think, for
Okay.
kind of for all of us and for the viewers. So there's things that happen, positive and negative, in life, and there's ways. For example, there could be a, just going back to the tornado thing, that could be a negative thing that could happen to your community, and you want to have a resilient community and one that supports each other's neighbors. And now that is a whole deep conversation of how you build a community that's resilient. But as an individual, how can you build individual resiliency through your community? On the positive side, like I just pulled up this fun article about the, I think it's called the DeKalb Corn Fest in Illinois, and they've grown to over 100,000 attendees. And I bet that it was just some guy who liked to boil corn, or some gal, or a family, and they just shared their passion out with the world, going to farmers market or this and that, and it's grown into this huge community event that brings people together. So both on a positive and negative perspective, this bringing people together through marketing, by the way, this does not exist without marketing of some kind, word of mouth, or actual direct response, paid ads, or social media, or whatever the case may be. Marketing is involved in both positive and negative community stuff. So how do we make it
Absolutely.
happen?
There's so many ways. I'll give you one that I've seen that I thought was super dope. Heather McLeod. I think you met her. She drove to the event with us. And
Mhm.
long story short, again, guys talking about randomly going to places. I go to this event, and then literally like two streets over lives somebody who's a killer. She owns a killer in the real estate business. At the end of the day, killer in the real estate business, and one of her houses is two streets over. So I go hang out with her, and she says of all the places that she has houses in, and all the places that she lives, she loves this community. Why is that? This community has a Facebook group, and in this group is led by a few people, and they organize all types of shit for that little block over there. All types of events are happening that are organized within the community. And talking about resiliency, anytime something happens to one member in that community, the whole community comes together. So, for example, somebody had recently lost their husband to cancer. And when he was going through the whole chemo process, she really needed support that she couldn't get from her family who lived elsewhere. So she pulled up to the house from chemo and was having trouble getting her husband out of the vehicle. All she had to do was drop a message in the group. Boom. People are coming out of their houses to come help her. She didn't have to worry about anything to eat for a very long time. Um, there's so many ways to go about building resiliency and building a community. But to your point with the story of the corn thing, and then this community, or in this community over here with the Facebook group, it just took a couple people, or it took one person to start a Facebook group. It took one person to think of, hey, I want to have this corn thing. I love whatever. And then it will grow organically from there if you are using the word you used earlier, consistent.
There's a group that my wife has been a part of, a mom's co-op, And anytime somebody's due with their baby, had been pregnant, now due, it's a combination of how can we help you, what food can we bring, it's a dinner schedule, it's a support schedule, babysitting schedule, and it's been amazing to see. And similarly to the group that you mentioned, helping with that cancer situation, and just thinking about how we do marketing, right? We do paid ads with the intention of getting someone to buy or believe. It seems like the way true community gets built is through these genuine connections. So, how come most marketing doesn't realize or doesn't appreciate the fact that that's building that connection is the most important part, and just presenting an advertisement like once, people are asking, well, why, well, like, why am I not getting leads, or why are they low quality leads? They don't know you, they don't care about you. What do you think?
Instant gratification, man. I think looking at it, let's say, you know, somebody like me coming out of the bowels of affiliate marketing, dude, you know how it was back in the day. You know, it used to be super easy. You drop an ad, and then all of a sudden you're making, well, not that easy, but when you got the hang of how to do marketing, you could make an ad, and the next thing you know, you're getting money that day. And if it blows up, you're getting money fast. It's happening pretty fast. And now we're in a world where it doesn't work that easy, and people don't just click on your shit and buy. They click on your shit and they go YouTube you, and they go read reviews, and they go to Amazon and this and that. There's a longer buying cycle because people need trust. That's in our world. And then you look at, just if I'm serving a client who's like, hey, I started my campaign yesterday, how come I'm not getting leads today? That's just the world of today. It's instant gratification. You can go to TikTok or Facebook, watch a short, get an instant dopamine hit. If you want a cool little mug right now, you order it today, it's here tomorrow. um, the world is optimized and cares for instant gratification. I might want, and I'll shut up, I'll get off my little high horse here in a second, but there's a bunch of people who sit there and say, hey, I want $1 million business. I want this, that, and the other. They come home from the regular job, they go home and they watch Netflix. Because that's easy. That's what's much more gratifying than having to actually build that business. I want a six pack. Okay, then they come home with a bag of McDonald's. That's easy. It's not, you know what I mean? They're not thinking 3 months, hey, let me eat this today, and then 6 months from now, I'll have a six pack. So I know I'll get off my little soapbox here, but that's my thought on it.
I'm glad that you brought up instant gratification, because one of the topics that I want to talk about is mental health, especially mental health in children, how it relates to community, how it relates to marketing. So getting that just after this is that, um, it's like it seems like the world is splitting into two, where it's one side is the instant gratification, the other side is just all about finding their community, and maybe they are willing to put in the work, but it just like taking from, I think we talked about this the other day too, is big companies like Johnson and Johnson, Procter and Gamble, they used to dominate with one, two, three products, right? It's just everyone would buy the Band-Aids or whatever. Everyone would buy the bleach that they had to offer. But now, like taking the bleach example, or uh, whatever that soap is that you put in your washing machine, um, there's so many different options, and as a consumer, you're finding your community through your purchasing behavior. So yes, instant gratification on one side, but also just this importance of community, smaller brands, niches, all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to even add to that, really. Like, I agree. I have like nothing of significance to add to that one.
Well, and that's the difference that I hope that for me personally happens in this move, is that I will go from the instant gratification, no preparation
Right.
mindset, into actually having a plan, having a goal in mind. How do I see this going? And then realizing through these examples, and there's so many of them, like that corn fest, that you can, in your own local community, you can create so much positive influence by just putting an idea out there. The local people, and just not really talking about politics, but everyone's like, who's going to be president, this or that. But, and, it's the local actions that matter most. And it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money the government is giving to you for a local. Money is just paper, right? Or it's numbers on a screen. Like, there has to be action. So it's nice to see this corn fest as an example of action.
If you or when you put thought into your strategy, Dimitri, for y'all who don't know Dimitri, um, when he starts doing strategy, it's beautiful. And let's give you a quick example. Dimitri can have a idea of something, and then look at the outcomes, and then give you a statistical probability of the outcomes based on his actions. Who the fuck thinks like that? And so, point being is when you start being strategic about something, I have no doubt that you will reach your aim, because it's not just, to me, I lean heavily on the art. You are a great mixture of art and science, and numbers don't lie. I mean, they can if you fib them, but in this case, you use data to drive your strategy. And so, dude, you go up to Virginia with a plan, then I have no doubt.
Well, I appreciate that, and I look forward to you visiting sooner than later. But as the months and the years go on, hopefully there's more community that I'll be able to show you as we go.
Hell yeah.
Okay, going to the mental health aspect of this is that, as we know, post pandemic and post the lockdowns, especially, that a lot of people have been affected by depression, loneliness, mental health issues, and exacerbated pre existing conditions. And the question, the kind of the easy question is kind of why it happened. But the more important question is, using these words that we talked about, the C words, and marketing, how can it get better? And I'm just going to show you, and I'm going to read you an example of a community. This is in the UK. West Berkshire Council has implemented strategies for engagement with this specific demographic post pandemic to get them back. Because let me read you some statistics. It's like, I don't know if these are accurate, and like, data doesn't lie unless, like you said, like, they're just made up. But 83% of children reported increased negative feelings since the lockdown, with 96% of those who were locked down for extended period experiencing heightening distress, and it's still persisting. They're rising loneliness since then. We know the social media aspect of this, but I think there was also just, whatever the effect of that was, pre-existing conditions for some reason are getting worse. But so, going back to the question is, how can we use community, how can we use the 5 C's, and how can we use marketing to connect and improve the mental health of the population?
Let me zoom out of this. And I'm going to bookmark that question because I have something that comes to mind with when you're talking about mental health. And granted, basically, my thoughts are probably not going to be the most popular here. And I'm coming, and I know I'll tell you why. I'm black, and in the black community, this thing is not very popular. Period. You know, at least yeah, it's not very popular in the black community. Mental health services and help and things like that. I'm Jamaican, not very popular in that culture. So you have those two things, and also,
Don't
I
worry,
was.
be happy. Sorry, this is making you happy. It's a mental health strategy.
That's your mental health, right? Exactly. That's your therapy. Um, and then I was born in the '80s, where this is not talked about when we were growing up, and then definitely our parents were talking about it. So my thoughts on mental health might be a little jaded. Now, let me say this: I understand if somebody is clinically depressed. That's something that I have no, I can't relate with that. Like, if you clinical depression, yo, get help. Clinical anxiety, like soul crushing anxiety. I'm not talking about all that type of stuff. Well, this is what I'm talking about, Dimitri. Before I answer your question, I have a harder time with mental health nowadays because I do feel like it becomes an easy button for some people. Here, let me give you an example. I know somebody, or I know of somebody, who doesn't go to work sometimes because she's having a, sorry, they are having a bad mental health day. And this shit can go on for days. And there's some people who are like, oh, I can't do this because the anxiety is too much. And then their parents or whoever around them will be like, oh, well, okay, it's all right. You saw this with what's your name, Simone Biles or whatever, who was competing in the Olympics not long ago, and she pulled out for mental health reasons. I don't know what she's going through. I don't know what she's going through. I don't. So I can't, whatever. But everybody rallied around it and was like, hey, it's okay. That was cool. You pulled out, yada, yada. And that might have been exactly what she needed to do. Or it could have been like, and I'm not saying again, I don't know if what she was saying was clinical or whatever, but let's just say that she said that she's having a bad mental health day. It could have been like, this is something you push through and you grow as a result. Not saying Simone Biles in specific, but let's say the woman I was talking about, I guess I might as well say woman now, the woman I was talking about who just doesn't go to work because she's having a bad mental health day, maybe you need to get your ass off the couch and push through it, develop some resiliency, and then grow from that. My challenge with mental health today is that it's almost like a fucking easy button for people. It's just a cop out, and people gather around them and say, oh, it's okay, as opposed to, hey, push through this anxiety, get on stage. I know somebody, you know somebody who will throw up before they go and do speeches all the time, but they go and do them and they grow as a result. Where there could be somebody else like, hey, you know what? That gives me too much anxiety. Too much. I'm out. I'm out. And people around them will be like, oh, it's okay. Da, da, da. So at what point do you really support somebody with mental health stuff versus it's actually crippling them and making them softer? So I bookmarked your question, and that's my question.
The This is a super interesting topic. I'm glad you got into it because I kind of the next question, we keep bookmarking questions, is
Yeah.
um, are people saying this in the best interest of those they're claiming to help, or are they saying this because the culture is telling them to do so? And I mean, you would probably agree with me in saying that it's probably a combination of both, where they
Yes.
think they're helping in part because the culture is saying that that's what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
But there is some type of marketing, and there's a certain, and I'm going to go back to this list here. There's a certain credibility, culture, and creativity. Let's say I'll take those three to that idea of supporting people through their mental health episodes, rather not through their own, but to back away and not push through them. There is some kind of societal, again, there's some credibility to it, there's some character to it, there's a community of people around you, there's a culture that's pushing that, there's a creative way of marketing that idea that's making it such that it's the primary or most popular idea in today's world.
And with that, I agree with you. I think it's a mixture of both, and there's marketing behind it that's pushing that. And where it hurts people is, I forgot who said this. It might have been a Hermosi or something, and it might be somebody he stole this from. But the worst people to take advice from when you're an entrepreneur or you're trying to do something like that are the people that really care about you, like your parents, because they're going to want what's safe. So let's say you have the people who really care about you and want what's safe, and you're telling them there's some kind of mental health thing, and the whole marketing behind it is, hey, support mental health. So now you have people who think they're helping you by keeping you safe and feeding into this message of support mental health, when in this situation maybe you need to gamble and you need to be pushed.
I'm wondering, but it seems like the combination, the feminine energy, masculine energy, and that doesn't mean male and female or anything like that. It's just the
Right.
different. It's the caretaking and then the exploration energy, and it seems like we're the marketing for the masculine side has kind of faltered over the last few years. And in our local communities, what can we do? What can we do to start pushing for that to make a revival?
I think it's most like anything where, what's that cliche statement? Be the change you want to see. So, there's one way to go about it. We can go preaching like, hey, everybody's being soft. Need to reintroduce this masculine energy. Come to the masculine energy conference and blah. Like you could do all that, or you could just go out there and model in your community what you want to see. And if you do that well and you market that modeling well, it will attract others who are down with that. It becomes self-filtering.
I like that, of course, and we heard it all before, but I think it always is good to hear "be the change that you want to see," and it makes perfect sense. And okay, so I wanted to just throw in before we wrap up a few more like really positive events similar to the corn cob thing. There's just to lighten the mood here a little bit.
Yeah.
The Gilroy Garlic Festival. There's the Tulip Time Festival. This is all in the United States. National Cherry Festival. Like every little berry has its own plant. Texas Renaissance Festival, like Renaissance fairs, fun period stuff. Mardi
Hmm.
Gras, everybody knows, but that is a community event. It just happens to be worldwide, world renowned. The Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, which I think you've seen the pictures where there's just hundreds of these hot air balloons that fill the sky. It's really cool. So a lot of this is revolved around food or revolved around some kind of activity, and I guess that's what it should be. So there's so many different things that can be done in the community. Now, for next week, I want to preview the next episode. Before I do, I just wanted to see if you had any last words you want to get on this topic.
Nah, man. You mentioning those things is kind of going back to just a marketing, where we see marketing going nowadays is just the creation of community, is huge. Especially when you have products that are not, physical products. If you're looking to sell information or a service or something, it just seems like creating community, period, is just a valuable skill set in business and marketing.
And it just made me think of something that people like to watch sporting events, even if it's on TV. They want to see it live. And I was it's like, why is that? Why do they want to see it live, even if it's on 10-second delay? It's just I'm watching the channel that millions of other people are watching, and without even being in the same room, you can be a part of that community just by watching that sports channel or listening to the radio. And when a song comes on the radio, I like you remember this when a song came on the radio. I don't know about you, but I kind of felt connected to other people who were also enjoying that song anonymously. Now I'm picking it on Spotify or YouTube. No one else is watching it with me, and I lose that sense of community. And especially, and with AI coming on now stronger and stronger, and there's going to be more automation, blah blah blah. The community thing is going to be big. It really is going to be big.
It's a very interesting point, and I'll be brief about this. Very interesting point you said about the radio. I never thought about that. You're right. There was a sense of community with the radio because it's local. So it's talking about local things. You had a DJ who was talking. You had people calling in. Even the commercials were local. So it was just more of this. I'm a part of something now. I mean, I was just listening to Spotify prior to this thing, and it's just me, just me in this song, which, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with, but you're right. You lose that sense of being a part of something bigger.
So next week we're going to talk about tequila. We're going to specifically talk about what Don Julio has been doing, which is a very well-known tequila brand, probably the well, at least one of the most well-known out there, and it's pretty high-quality tequila. So they're doing a lot of stuff with community AI engagement, and we're going to walk you through what they're doing and how to apply those techniques to your business or to your community, like we talked about this week.
I think that'll be a good one, man.
All right, y'all. See you then.
Peace.